If you exercise in perfectly ultra strict form all the time, you will probably never reach your true muscle building potential. Why? Coach Greg, in today's video, it's all about training. How hard should you train? Should you train to failure? Should you train to failure in strict form? Should you cheat on sets, beginner, advanced? How many reps from failure should you do? And it's the hopes of this video to better educate you on exactly how hard should you be training and how do you know you're training that hard depending on your current experience level. So just to clarify, reps in reserve is how many reps could you do if you had a gun to your head and you had to train all out to failure, as hard as you could possibly go. And it's fairly well documented that after you get out of the beginner stages that you should be training to within 3 reps of failure. Beginners, you can gain doing anything. You pretty much just have to show up and warm up and you're going to make improvements. But after you get out of those newbie gains, you have to train harder than last time. You need to. Your muscles are not going to grow without that stimulus for growth. And so somewhere between 0 and 3 reps of failure seems to be the sweet spot for most people. But that also depends on your experience level and the exercise. Think of it. It's a lot harder to go to failure on a set of squats or deadlifts than it is on a set of bicep curls or calf raises. And of course it depends. And no, I'm not talking about the depends you have to wear when performing a set of all-out squats or deadlifts to failure. You've seen people pee in their pants when deadlifting? I sure have had on the powerlifting platform, world championships and so on. When you push yourself to failure all out, you can lose control of your bowel movements. I've seen it. Main fact to squirt it into the pants a little bit, once or twice, 100 times. So when I look around the gym, I notice that the majority of people are not training within 3 reps of failure. But yet people know they should be training within 3 reps of failure. So why aren't they? Because people don't know that they're training like pussies. They don't realize it. It's not really their fault. You can't guess how hard you can go if you had a gun to your head. So you tell someone, hey, train within 3 reps of failure. They're doing their lat pull downs and they stop 3 reps of failure. You're thinking, yeah, I probably could have done 3 more. But had they done 3 more, they probably could have done it. But then the gun comes up and says, if you don't do 1 more rep, you're dead. Guess what? Probably doing another 5 reps. So the problem is most people underestimate just how many reps they can actually do by probably 2 to 5 reps. So let's just take 3 as an example. So if you're doing your set of leg press and you do a set of 10 reps and you stop because you think, well, I probably could only do 13, chances are you probably could have done 15 or more. So you're not actually training as hard as you think. So does reps in reserve training actually work? Well, yes and no. It works if you actually are training within that range, but the problem is most people are not. Most people don't train as hard as they think they are. They feel like they're training, but they're not. And this doesn't just apply in the weight room, it applies in cardio as well. Let's take swimming, for example. In swim practice, we would often be told, hey, swim this lap really hard. I'd swim, beat my teammates. Then we'd go to a race, and they would all beat me. And I would say, how do you beat me in a race when you never beat me in practice? Well, I don't swim as hard in practice as I do on race day. And I'm thinking, but the coach says to go hard. They're like, yeah, it's hard, but I could go harder. I'm thinking, coach says go hard, I'm going all out. So some people naturally just train harder, push themselves harder, can suffer more. Some people, I would estimate 5% people, the 5%ers of the world, as Rich Piana used to say, they just go harder than last time, automatically, intrinsically. They just desire that feeling. They're capable of handling torture, suffering more than other people. Oftentimes, these people, they become Olympic champions, the ones who can handle the most grueling workouts, pro bodybuilders, and so on. Take cyclists, for example. Cyclists are supposed to have easy days and hard days. Problem is, most cyclists go too hard on easy days and not hard enough on hard days. Their training will say, go really easy on this day, and they'll go moderately hard, and they'll say go all out, do intervals, hit cardio on the hard day, and they go hard, but not hard enough. Not hard enough. They don't go into the pain zone, the nightmare, the suffering, where you just wish it could all be over. You're going so hard, you don't know how you were able to go that hard. Most people can't go there. They think it's hard, but there's no gun to the head. It's not life or death. If it was life or death and they said pedal harder on the bike for 5 more seconds, could you do it? Of course you could. But you're riding a bike and you have some lactic acid, you're tired, and so you just don't. Same applies to the weight room. You're feeling the pain, you're on rep number 12 on the set of leg press, and you feel sore, you're getting tired, and you stop. You say, wow, I went really hard. But did you? Did you have 3 more reps in the tank? Of course you did. You probably had 5 more. So the problem is people underestimate just how hard they're actually training. So my advice, train harder than you think. Train harder than last time. And for most people, it's going to work better because most people don't train hard enough. So there's nothing wrong with RIR training. The problem is people are trying RIR training and not training hard enough. They're stopping and saying, yeah, it was 2 or 3 reps in the tank, perfect. But really it was 5. So here's my advice, unless you're a beginner, train with 0 to 1 RIR. Train to failure. Train to the point where you're thinking, I could probably do 1 more rep, maybe, probably not sure. And if you are training that hard, you will probably be within 3 RIR. So rather than holding back and thinking, oh, I'm probably training too hard, it's in fact the opposite. You are most likely not training hard enough. Except for the 5%ers out there. You're already training good, don't worry about it. But 95% of the people watching this video, this applies to you. Train harder than last time. And you're thinking, okay, you're going to the gym and you're training in super strict form, which I highly recommend for beginners. You're doing bicep curls, you're not swinging whatsoever, you're doing your lat pull downs, you're slowly going up the eccentric, twice as slow as a concentric, pulling it all the way down, doing it amazing. And then you're saying, yep, I'm at 3 IR, time to stop. Great. The problem is, what is true failure? Is true failure on a lat pull down when you can no longer do 1 perfect rep? Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. But have you considered this? When I do a lat pull down, it's very, very difficult to go from here to here. So when I'm at failure to here, I can probably do 3 more reps if I go to failure here. So should I actually stop at 7 reps? Because I can only get 7 to here? Or should I stop at 10 when 10 is here? Or should I keep going and swing just a little bit? I'm going to lean back just a slight amount and do even more reps. Or forced reps. Or should I do rest pause reps? Well, here's my personal opinion. If you exercise in perfectly ultra strict form all the time, you will probably never reach your true muscle building potential. Why? Because you can't push yourself hard enough. To continue to grow, you need progressive overload. You need to train harder than last time. And if you stop every time the weight starts to get hard in perfect form, you're not going to be allowing yourself to progressive overload enough. And should training intensity, RIR, not vary from exercise to exercise? Of course it should. Do you know how hard it is to do a set of squats to failure in comparison to calf raises? Calves. Do you know how easy it is to train calves hard? I can train calves to failure every single time, no problem. When I'm training calves, it is rare that I don't do at least 5 partial, probably 10 partial reps after getting failure. Squats? Never! You think I'm going to do squats to failure and then add 5 to 10 partial reps on top of that on every set? Not possible. So certain exercises, the ones that are the most taxing to the entire body, like squats and deadlifts, you don't need to push yourself as hard as other exercises that are more muscle specific. Bicep curls, you don't need to stop 3 reps in reserve. You can train to failure and beyond. Side laterals. You don't need to stop at the moment you reach failure in perfect form. If you do, you're never going to be training them very hard. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
how many studies you read in scientific literature that says you train a certain way, when in the real world it doesn't apply to most people. In the real world, it makes more sense to cheat or use a little body English on a bicep curl than it does to cheat on a squat. You don't want to use poor exercise form or cheat when doing squats. But on the bicep curls, if you want to swing a few extra reps to make the reps harder, go for it. Not if you're a beginner. Beginners should use perfect form, strict technique, focus on the lift. But if you've been training for a few years, you're no longer a beginner, you're not making as many gains, you've plateaued, and you recover well, push harder. Add some cheat reps, forced reps, drop sets, and so on. You don't have to stop with 0 to 3 reps in reserve. If you do, well, as Jeff Cavalier would say, it's killing your gains. Trust me, take my word for it. You can't just look at studies. You need to look at what happens in the real world. In the real world, squats and deadlifts are freaking a nightmare. They are very challenging, very difficult. Not many people can push themselves to failure on the squats, and in fact, I don't think they should. You know I'm all about training to failure, training hard, going harder than the last time, but I don't recommend you put on 400 pounds in your back, you do a set of 10, you're not sure if you can do another one, and you just keep grinding. It's too hard, too taxing on the body and the mind, and I don't want you to get hurt. Very dangerous to keep pushing to failure on a barbell squat. In comparison, seated calf raises, you've done your set of 12, you can't do another one in strict form, do some half reps, add 5 more. What's the worst that can happen? You think you're getting injured doing your seated calf raises? Bicep curls, you've done a set of 10, you can't swing a little bit just to get the weight up for 1 or 2 more reps?
Super strict.
Nope. Or was I really at failure? I think this still looks pretty good. And that's it with that strict kind of failure. But what if I do this? Okay. That's failure, or was it? So I'm not saying you should go and use horrible technique and just swing anything to get the weight up, but there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of a cheat, a little bit of a swing to get the reps down. And if you can't pull the lat pull down all the way to your chest and you stop at your chin or maybe at your nose, that's okay. It's not like you're going to get injured. You're still doing the exercise in good form. You're just not able to completely pull it down to your chest. It's still working the muscles. It's still pushing with safe form, but it allows you to go harder than last time. So if you've reached a plateau and you can't grow and you're recovering, you're not sore, and you want to go harder than last time, go harder. Train harder. Swing, cheat a little bit. Don't stop the set when you're within 3 reps of strict form failure. Keep going. At least try to train to actual failure. And ask yourself, for $1,000 more, could I have done another rep? I've told this to people for years, for decades. Did you go to failure? Yes. If I paid you $1,000 for every rep of squats you could have done, would you have been able to do 1 more rep? Yeah, probably 3, probably 5. Then you were 3 or 5 reps from failure. If you went all out but could have done more for $1,000 a rep, or if your life depended on it, it means you aren't trained to failure. So when people say reps in reserve, it's literally reps in reserve. How many could you do on the ultimate circumstances? On the best day of your life with the most amount of motivation? It doesn't mean how many reps in reserve did you feel like doing? I wanted to do 3 reps more, but I stopped, so that's 3 reps in reserve. I felt like doing one more rep, but I stopped one rep short of failure because it was starting to get hard, and I wanted to do one more because I was in the mood for one, but I stopped one rep shy of that because that was the mood I was in on that day. That's not what it means. What it means is if your life depended on it, could you have done another rep? Hopefully that helps. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching. Greg Doucette, IFBB Pro. Click the bloops to watch one of those harder than last time supplements. Get those. Also, coaching plans by me and my team. The cookbook, training book. Subscribe, bell button it right now. Come on, click the button and bell button. And until next time, I am out. When in doubt, my suggestion, always try training harder than last time.
Coach Greg.